So for today's adventure, we're hiking the Lyle Cherry Orchard Loop. The trail is at an unsigned trailhead on the Washington side of the Columbia River. This is a 6.5 mile trail in the Columbia River National Scenic Area. It's held in trust by the Friends of the Gorge. Washington Trails Association has done quite a bit of work on this trail starting in 2019 to add some additional loops up on the top end of the trail. It's one of those typical hikes where in the spring you're going to get a lot of wildflowers, but also a lot of ticks. We're up here in the winter, so we're not going to have to deal with the ticks, which is nice. So just up the hill from the parking lot for the Cherry Orchard Trail, you hit the sign for the Cherry Orchard Trail that says there's 2 beautiful miles, which isn't accurate. As I said, they've added on some additional mileage, so it's going to be closer to 6.5, 7 miles. So we're just going to be climbing the basalt flows up until we get onto the top. So we'll have views of basalt rock and the Columbia River Gorge all the way up, and perhaps my favorite part, we're going to be hiking through a lot of oak forest. One of those rare days hiking by myself. The girls are in school. I snuck a Friday off work. I'm out here playing hooky. So here's the view from about 7/10 of a mile up from the main parking lot. Just pan out over the Columbia River. So you can see, yeah, pretty nice views right from the start on this trail. And today there was only one other car in the parking lot. The directions in all trails, I opened them in Google Maps and it brought me right to the trailhead, no problems. So if you want to get away from the crowds, like on Snoqualmie Pass over I-90, hey, here's a great option. A little bit of a drive for Seattleites, but for Portlanders, easy peasy. So again, about 7/10 of a mile. I was just shooting video from that overlook right over there. So you can see there's this fork in the trail. If you go straight, you're on the Lyle Loop Trail. So we're gonna hang a hard right to the north to stay on the Cherry Orchard Trail. Trail's a little bit muddy, so hiking poles might be a little bit of a help, depending on how sure-footed you are. I think muddy trails in the shrub steppe, pretty common in the winter months, so it's to be expected. So we're about 1.2 miles in, and the hike out of the river bottom is essentially done at this point. And you can see we're up into the oak forest now, which I particularly like. So 1.6 miles in, and here you see the evidence of the work that's been done, I believe by Washington Trails Association. So there used to be barbed wire fence strung through here, and that's all been removed. And so this is the walk around for the old barbed wire fence, which you clearly don't need anymore. I think it's kind of fun that they left it. Pretty nice. So I'm about 2.2 miles in. I'm on the Cherry Loop part of the hike, so we're towards the end of the main part of the hike. The property boundaries here. Some private roads going off that way, so I'm going to hang to the right and stay on the Cherry Loop Trail. And then when we get back down, we'll try the newly added on Lyle Loop. Now we're by the falcon nesting area. I don't think we need to worry about nesting falcons this time of year though. So we're just over 3 miles now. We've closed off the new Cherry Loop, and we're gonna try to pick up the newly built Lyle Loop on the way out. So about 3.8 miles into my hike, here's the Lyle Loop Trail. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this one. This will bring us all the way back around to that trail intersection that I showed earlier in the video. So it'll put a fairly large loop onto this piece of the hike. As you can see, the trail right away is much less used than the other trail, but you can definitely see it easily. So we're gonna check this out. I've never been on this one. Like I said, I think this was new, a new addition by Washington Trails Association. So we'll see how it goes. So adding on that Lyle Loop to the hike is adding on some great views of the Columbia River Gorge. And we just spotted our first deer of the hike a moment ago. So this has been a nice add-on. Less used trail, but also because of it, less muddy. So you can see on the map that the Lyle Loop part of the trail had to cross some steeper topography to get you back to the intersection with the orchard trail, the cherry orchard trail. So I was a bit curious when I was looking at the map how they had done it, and this is how they did it. They just cut it into a steeper hillside, and so you've got some narrow trail and a little bit steep. So one of those spots where if it was muddy, it could be uncomfortable. Just really narrow trail right through here. So a little bit of road noise, but it's worth the views. So we're just over 6 miles into the hike, and the Lyle Loop Trail is reconnecting now with the Lyle Cherry Orchard Trail. So we went up that way at the start of the trip, and now we're gonna make that last push down to the parking lot right down there. So it looks like the 6.5 to 7 mile estimate for this hike is gonna be really accurate. Definitely a muddy hike today. And what I mean by muddy is, let's see if that's what I mean by muddy right there. So the mistake I made today, I was going to throw in an extra pair of pants to change into. I threw in extra shoes, then I forgot to throw the extra pants in. All right, so we're arriving back at the Lyle Cherry Orchard Trail sign. So we're gonna call the Lyle Cherry Orchard Trail. In the bag, we added on the Lyle Loop Trail today as an extension. And what you can see right here is an old road bed. This is the Convict Road. So it's right at the start of the trail, and the Convict Road, which is this little piece I'm walking on here, was actually built by convicts in 1910 under the direction of Sam Hill. Sam Hill, because of a disagreement with the Washington state governor, ended his construction on this side of the river, the Washington side of the river, in 1911, and moved his construction efforts over to the Oregon side. And the rest is in the bag. It's history, because the historic Columbia Gorge Highway wound up on the Oregon side of the river and not the Washington side. So the epilogue is, you know the trail's going to be muddy when they have one of these at the start.